What about poverty is not a problem?
I don't think that people realize that there is poverty in Fort Collins.
Just because we have, like the Centera shops and like Starbucks everywhere and all that, like, doesn't mean there's not serious problems here, man.
I have been talking about this for a very long time, that we need more affordable housing in Fort Collins.
It's cheaper for a family to pull together and 6 or 7 or 8 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I know that that happens. I know that there's homeless people in Fort Collins.
Anything below $10 an hour is poverty level wages.
How do you work minimum wage jobs and pay a mortgage, pay the lights, the gas? If you got children, now you're talking, food, clothes, schooling.
$7.02 an hour here in Colorado? Try living on it.
If it's the difference between putting food on the table and paying the mortgage, well, then the kids go without food.
It's a cycle. It takes more than one generation to get out of poverty. Driving down Linden, and I see a family. A mom, a dad, and a baby. It's raining. The babies, they don't have a coat on the baby or anything. They're walking to the Catholic Charities, to the homeless shelter, and it was obvious that this was a homeless family with a 1-year-old baby out in the rain.
I am a social services director for the Salvation Army in Fort Collins. The scary stuff is there are working families that just can't meet the ends, and they work hard.
I volunteer a lot of time down here just for the simple reason is they need help.
At least 20 phone calls every week from people asking us to help them with rent or utilities, and I cannot help all those people. I have to pretty much choose where I think is the greatest need.
Like myself and my mom, like she was a single mother, obviously. Often, not knowing if the lights are gonna stay on, are we gonna have, food tomorrow? Are we going to be living here tomorrow?
It breaks your heart when you see the kids suffering.
One day the TV was there, and the next day it's not, and I would ask my mom where it went, and she would just say, oh, the TV's broken, and it wasn't until I got older that I learned that she was pawning the TV so we would have money to get food,
Well, when your family has to live in 5 different houses in a year, and sometimes no houses, and you're going from school to school to school to school, you're not going to get a high school diploma.
There are a number of students that go to school in Poudre School District that are living in severe poverty. I mean, living in lean-tos and stuff north of town that you would not think exists here, especially when walking around the old town.
We're talking about Buckingham, Andersonville, and Alta Vista. They're adjacent down off of LeMay. These 3 neighborhoods are the most affordable housing left in Fort Collins. Pat Stryker has bought the land and is planning to do a 2,500 seat music venue. These people that live in this neighborhood have been here for generations. They are low income, they are fixed income.
I grew up here. I grew up in Buckingham, and back then I didn't know the situation that I was in.
And my concern is that with this music venue, it will cause gentrification of my neighborhood.
Just everything takes me longer than it would probably anyone else. I have conditions that I can use Dial-Right unconditionally. They used to go in a sliding scale of 50 cents, $1.50, or $2.50, depending on a sliding scale. But due to the budget cuts for the city last 2 years. We now pay $2.50 per ride every time we get on the bus. There's parts of Fort Collins that is not serviced adequately.
The bus system here is pretty good, but mainly it's for the college, you know. So the working man themselves, you know, I mean, they're going to utilize the bus. They're going to be spending an extra at least 2 hours a day just waiting for the bus.
Oh, and there's no evening service for transport. And right now, Dollar Ride is only until 10:30.
I have been homeless approximately 7 out of the last 9 years.
It's people just looking for, trying to find a permanent job that have been down on their luck. They got evicted from their apartment, they stay in one of the shelters, or they're living on the street.
We don't know what to expect with homeless people. So, I mean, sometimes we're afraid. Do we really need to be? I mean, I would say no.
I own Trojan Labor here in downtown Fort Collins. We put people to work either on day labor, temp to perm, or permanent placement jobs.
I'm here to work. And as soon as my boss gets back here at this labor office, we've got to go out and get steel-toed boots for the guys.
There's a lot of these homeless people in Fort Collins are pretty good people. You know, yeah, there's some criminals. I mean, there's a lot of criminals that aren't homeless in Fort Collins.
Starting out the day here, you get here between 5 and 6 a.m. You wait around, and if you don't get a job out of the office, the library opens at 9 o'clock.
As far as, you know, just moving to Fort Collins goes with nothing, they'll run you right out of town, or they'll put you in jail, you know. And maybe that's why jails are so full here in Fort Collins too, is because that's part of the way of keeping people off the street.
Being homeless isn't easy.
When we talk about if there's a rise in poverty in Fort Collins the last couple of years, one thing I can say is I know that more families are struggling.
I hear people all the time now telling me, you know, money is so tight. We're living literally from paycheck to paycheck.
I haven't ever seen so many people coming to the Salvation Army for help as this year. Starting with January, it has been a little bit overwhelming even.
What I've seen is an increase in people that are being evicted from their homes because they can't make their payments anymore. They got into stuff bigger than what they are.
The need is so overwhelmingly growing fast.
But yeah, things are just tight everywhere, and they're going to get tighter. You can just see that with this recession that's coming on.